licking the food.
Remo. So Jenny made some breakfast for us. What is it?
We have omelet and cauliflower fries.
Looks awesome. Look at that. So this is where I keep all my plants. I group them all together here because this is the only window in my apartment. And this window is facing north, so during the winter it's usually cloudy, so there's not much sun that's coming through, but if you get lucky on a few sunny days, there is this apartment building right across from my apartment that gives you this really nice reflection. It almost feels like you're getting direct sunlight for 30 minutes a day. This here is my very first plant. This is a Monstera deliciosa that I got around 2 years ago. It wasn't this big when it started. It only actually had one vine, which is this one here. But that first summer I decided to cut her up so that I have a couple more vines to make this plant look a lot more bushier. And so throughout the years, I've added on. This is a new vine here. It was another mature cutting that I put in, and it just put out this beautiful leaf a couple months ago. And there's a lot more babies in there, but I'm planning to take those out and replacing them with these cuttings here that I have. So I got 2 cuttings off of Facebook Marketplace, and these are mature cuttings. So the leaves that will come out of them will have a lot more fenestrations. And pro tip, when you get Monstera cuttings, try to get a top cutting. So what that means is, you see this right here? This is the leaf sheath of the new leaf that's about to come out. So a top cutting is just a cutting on the top of a vine, which there's only gonna be one cut. The new leaves that are gonna come out will come out from here, and they'll be already matured and have almost the same level of fenestrations as these leaves. If you end up getting a center cutting, what will happen is that a new vine will have to push out, and the leaves that come out will only have very little fenestrations. It will have to take some time for them to get massive. So this leaf is actually from the same vine as this one, but it was a center cutting. So you could tell that there's only one slit there, while this one has so many more because it was a top cutting. So I have a couple more hidden plants down here, which I kind of neglect because they haven't been growing that well. So here's the fiddle leaf fig. This one's a baby that I pulled out from a larger one. This one is a Pilea peperomioid. Honestly, it hasn't been growing that well, so just left it. Over here, 2 cacti from my parents' house. Can't wait till they grow up. And here is a bonsai tree. I think it's a type of ficus. One of those typical ones you find at like Costco or one of your grocery stores, but I just have it here. This one is a fiddle leaf fig. It's been growing pretty slowly, but it's still growing. It hasn't died. So this here, it's a little bit yellow actually, but this is my Hygrometer tetrasperma, or mini Monstera, and it's grown super tall. I got this exactly a year ago from Facebook Marketplace, and it literally only had 5 leaves, which they've all fallen off now. So it used to be about this tall, and it is a fast grower. You can see a new leaf popping up already. Every 2 weeks it puts out a new leaf, so if you want something that grows fast, get one of these plants here. This one is an aloe vera. This one was from IKEA. It honestly hasn't been growing that much, and I literally keep slamming the door on it, so that's why they're all cut up and bent. So that's that. And this one here is a birds of paradise, or Strelitzia. This I've been having so much trouble with. I think it had mites or something like that, and it would suck up all of the sap from the leaves, and you can still see some of the damage here. It would look like that all over the leaf. So I've been spraying it down with neem oil and some insecticidal soap. It's gone now. Hopefully it won't come back this summer. But yeah, I've cut off all of the leaves here that have been infected, which I think it's at least 6 or so on each stem. So now it looks like that, and it's still growing, so that's why I kept it. I have a couple of other plants that I don't need to keep next to the window because they don't need that much light. So this is my snake plant, or Sansevieria, and I got this a year ago. It hasn't really grown much, but I think everyone has this plant and it looks pretty nice. And the last plant I have is this Pothos, which I'm sure everyone has one of these in their house. So this actually only started off with 5 leaves, and look at it now, it is huge. So this one, I just literally water it once a week and it just keeps doing its thing. Alright, so here are a couple plant tips and tricks and a few tools that I use to keep my plants alive and well during the winter. I am by no means a plant expert. I love plants. I like to keep them healthy, and it's just a couple things that I learned through experience over the couple of years that I had plants for. So my first major tip is that when you're buying plants from big box stores like Costco, Home Depot, Canadian Tire, IKEA, just make sure you double check the plant to make sure they're healthy, but most importantly that there are no pests or bugs or insects or anything like that that could infect any of your plants at home and kill your plant after you buy it. Like I was saying before with my birds of paradise, I bought this birds of paradise from IKEA right after lockdown, so there's a bunch of people grabbing plants and I didn't check this plant for pests at all. When I brought it home, it looked fine, but a couple months later, all these tiny little bugs were eating at the leaves and it was just terrible. I was struggling with keeping this plant alive. All the leaves just looked so bad and I had to cut off all of the leaves from each stem just so it wouldn't spread to my other plants. It was just really bad, but somehow this plant is still alive and it's actually growing quickly. So I'll see what happens this summer, but tip number 1, just make sure you check your plants. When you bring your plants home, just make sure you give them a nice shower, nice wash and rinse, just to clean off any of the bugs that might still be on there. So here are just a couple of the tools that I've kind of accumulated over the past year, just to try to keep my plants nice and healthy, especially over the winter. So first is a humidifier. This is an ultrasonic humidifier with a variable misting power. Turn it all the way up. Now these things are pretty important during the winter, and especially if you're living in an apartment. Apartments have central heating systems which blast out super dry air, so usually your skin will feel dry, and if you feel dry, your plants are definitely suffering. So having one of these will prevent your leaves from drying up, crisping up, or turning yellow. This is definitely a good thing to have to create an environment that is favorable for your plants to grow in, especially if you have many of these tropical plants that I do. Raising the humidity will promote plant growth. Yeah. Next is the hygrometer, which actually pairs with the humidifier because it tells you the humidity in the room. This is definitely important. This also has temperature, which is nice too, but it will give you an instant read of the humidity. Look at that, 72. So you can know how moist the room is. It's a weird word. Next up is a moisture meter. This will tell you whether the soil is dry or wet and when to basically water your plant. Usually I check the soil moisture with my fingers. You could stick it a couple of inches in and see if it's dry or not, but for deeper pots like this and that, it's pretty hard to tell how wet the soil is. So having this tool here with the 2 long prongs, you're able to stick it all the way into the deeper parts of the soil to see if it's still wet. Next, this is just some fertilizer that I got off of Amazon. I think this just tells you the nitrogen, phosphorus, and what else is there? Potassium, yeah. Potassium content that the fertilizer provides. You can do some research. I just got a 20-20-20 because it's rounded. I don't know if this is even good, but helps your plant grow quicker. Next up is a grow light. You don't really need this, but during the winter, there's definitely not a lot of sunlight and the days are shorter. So having one of these will help supplement plants with more sunlight. It'll help extend the daylight hours. Some people use this all the time. They have it on all day, but I choose to use it right before sunset all the way up until 9 p.m. just so it gets that extra boost of light. And actually, I just picked this up from a local dollar store. Last winter I didn't use this at all. This winter I started using it, and my Monstera is literally still throwing out lots of leaves every couple weeks. So last year this went into hibernation basically. It was super dark and no leaves came out. Lastly is a spray bottle. If you can't get yourself a humidifier, this is the next best thing. You could just spray your plants every couple hours. And it's also good for spraying on neem oil or insecticidal soap if you have an infection. So it's definitely great to have this on hand. So yeah, that was a quick couple tips I had for my plants, and hopefully you guys can use that as well to keep your plants healthy during the winter and I guess the rest of the year as well. Anyways, thanks for watching. Please give it a like, subscribe, and if you guys want to hear more tips and tricks about plants, if you want me to go more in depth with propagation or any other topics about plants, please drop a comment below and let me know what you want to hear. But yeah, we'll see you next time. My dog is just enjoying the humidity as well.